Hello, everyone. Sorry, I was looking for my unmute button. Good evening. My name is Katrien and I am from Avanza Oost-Brabant. Welcome to you all. Glad to see that there are some people with their cameras on. It's always nice to see who is participating in this webinar over this evening. I will only be your host this evening. I had the luck of getting to know Kutluhan last October when he came to Belgium to host a weekend of natural farming in Bierbeek. And we were very glad to see all of the people interested in participating. We had 60 people participating in the weekend and we had more than 100 people on the waiting list. So that's why a lot of people are engaged at this moment to be really volunteers and to get natural farming introduced here in Belgium. Linda, you will meet her soon, was one of the people who really engaged herself in this process, and she will talk to you later this evening. I'm seeing that in the chat that there are that for some reason the webinar is limited to 100 people, so there are people not getting in. I'm sorry, Linda, I checked it. I upgraded until 500 people. I won't be able to do anything about it. I'm sorry. That's something, maybe Zoom. There is maybe some error in Zoom. But we are recording this evening. It's a pity. But okay, so the 100 people here are the lucky ones that will be able to hear Kutluhan live. We will be recording, but don't worry, your cameras won't be recorded, only the people speaking. So it will be me and Kutluhan and Linda. We will ask you to put all of your questions in the chat, and then if you have any question, I will check the chat and drop it in the story that Kutluhan will share with us. I always like a little bit of interaction in this evening, so I prepared Mentimeter for you. Maybe some of you know it. I will share my screen. Please take your smartphone or the computer you are watching this webinar, or a tablet. It doesn't really matter. And go to menti.com. It's a website. You can enter the code there that is written here on this slide. I will put it in the chat as well for everyone. Okay, and I would like to know where you are located, from which city or place are you watching this webinar at the moment? Let's see what pops up. The bigger it gets, the more people enter the same. So I'm seeing Antwerpen, Heernegem, we have the Netherlands, various people, Tienen, Randst. Okay, very nice to see all of the differences. Also people from Italy as well. They're close to you, Kutluhan. Or maybe it was you who entered Italy. I don't know who put it there. And it's nice to see that the webinar got spread. And yes, please answer in the chat if you don't have any smartphone or device. I see people there from Rekem, Wommelgem, Kortenaken, Schilde, Wustwezel. Heverlee is getting bigger, so there are more people, various people here from Heverlee, which is actually where the office of Avanza is located. Ghent as well. Okay, there's some competition between Ghent and Heverlee. Okay, I will let it pop in the meantime. There are a lot of people here joining today because some of the stories that Kutluhan shared with us in the weekend were very eye-opening, even for people that were already farming for quite some time. Some people were farming just in their gardens. Other people are farming as a job. We have some CSA farmers there, and it was very interesting to see how we, growing up here with all of our education, our images are formed and our information is limited as well. And it was very eye-opening to hear Kutluhan's story. And I will ask you, I will share the next slide. What comes to your mind when you hear natural farming? I recognize some people here in this webinar that already followed the course with Kutluhan. Other people, just what pops in your mind? Maybe I see Fukuoka, somebody read a book. Please share with us your thoughts about what is coming to your mind when you hear natural farming. And that will be my last minute here, and then I will leave Kutluhan for you. And I will ask you, if you have any questions, please write it down in the chat. Volcano, I see here in the chat. Health, food, forest, curiosity, the way it should be. There are some, I see Kutluhan laughing with all the words that are popping up. Maybe Kutluhan, I will give you you can already start. I will just let the words pop up, but please already begin your story.
It is so beautiful to read these words. I enjoy a lot. That's why I was laughing. No, please, Catherine.
But in the meantime that people are sharing their thoughts, I will just tell that Kutluhan is calling here from Italy. He has his proper farm there, and he is also engaged in the Natural Farming Center, an NGO. He's traveling worldwide to introduce people in natural farming. We were able to host him here, but in the past month, he has been to Turkey, Kenya, and I don't know, maybe other places as well. So he travels a lot to share all of his knowledge, all of his experiences. And in the coming hour and a half, he will share some of his thoughts with us here this evening as well. I think, Kutluhan, you can start your story, please.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you very much. So I would like to firstly present myself. My name is Kutluhan, and I am a farmer in Italy. In 2014, after I have read the books of Fukuoka, I wanted to discover this reality, to see the applied examples of natural farming, and I decided to travel. I spent 2 years in South America with the students of Fukuoka, and then another almost 5 years in Greece with another student of Fukuoka. And since over a year, I am having my own farm and applying the natural farming in Italy. And today, the main topic, it will be about the trees, reproduction of the trees, pruning of the trees, and the root stocks of the trees. And please, any moment, if you have any question, just share it and just write it on the chat, and then Catherine will present the question. I will be happy to hear any comments or any knowledge or any experience that you would like to share. Please feel free about it. So let's start with the natural form of the trees and pruning of the trees. Let's open two subjects. And then let's go with the parallel with these two topics and meet at the point of unifying them. So what you imagine when you think of a tree, what kind of shape it takes, what are the natural form of the trees? Any tree in the world or any seed that we take, it will have a different shape from the others. Even the same seed, if you take it and plant it in a sea level or on the top of a mountain or in the forest next to a river, in each time it will take a different shape, depends on the light, wind, water, and other circumstances. And each tree will have a shape from the other as well. Like we as human beings, each of us are different than the others. But when we say a human being, there is a valid form for all the human beings that are present in this world, which are two arms, one body, two legs, and one head. This is, although we are all different from each other, still this form is valid for all human beings. It is same for dogs, it is same for cats, it is same for any kind of living beings in this world. And it is same also for the trees. Although each tree will have its own form, still there will be a valid form that is applied for all the trees, most of the trees. And this form basically is one main trunk is raising in this shape towards the sky and having the branches in a spiral of a form of a DNA, our DNA. And the branches will make an angle, larger angle from the bottom, and then as they go up, it will they will get closer to the trunk. This information is not because Fukuoka told us or someone else told us. It is simply if we take a seed and then plant it, this is the form that it takes. So that means that this is a natural form of a tree that nature decides that it takes. It is not because it is unwritten information, but it is simply its own nature. And let's open the other topic. Why do we prune trees? What do you think about it? So the main reason of pruning, it raises in the moments that we humans decided to plant in a monoculture way. And today, most of the disease that we face in the fruit cultivation, or even vegetables and the cereals, they are coming because of the disease, in parentheses, disease of the fungi disease. And when we planted the fruit trees in a monoculture way, we faced a lot of fungi disease. And then humanity decided to change the shape of the tree and give a different shape so that we will not have, we will have less problem about fungi disease. So we decided to open the middle of the tree and give this shape, which is called polyconic shape. It is simply this. Instead of having this one main trunk that is going up, raising towards the sky, we decided to give this shape to the trees. And the main reason is that as we open the middle of the tree, like this part of the tree, there is more wind and then there is more light is entering, and it creates an environment that is less favorable for the fungi. But there are some consequences of pruning trees. So I don't want to say that pruning trees is right or wrong. I would like to just talk about the consequences of pruning, and then you can decide alone whether to prune or not your trees. First of all, a tree that is pruned just once, even just once, we have to keep on pruning all its life. There is no way to go back. It is like a child, and we have an intention of, we want that this child has to run faster, and then we go there and cut the arms by thinking that the energy of the arms will go to the legs so that this child will run faster. Obviously, this will not happen. We will just take its own sustainability, its own autonomy from this child. And in the moment you prune a tree, you have to prune all your life. If you decide not pruning the trees that are already pruned, probably they will not have a long life. And this is what also happened to Fukuoka, if you have read his book. He receives from his father a citrus farm that are pruned, and then he decides not to prune those trees. And within a couple of years, all trees were dead. He found himself in such a situation and then start again from seeds and then arrive to the point of not pruning. So in the first moment, let's see what happens if we decide not to prune a tree that is already pruned. Imagine this is the shape that we give to a tree. It's called polyconic shape. And in the moment that we decide not to prune anymore, the tree wants to go back its own origin instinctively, which was a main trunk that was raising towards the sky and then the branches around. But it is too late. It cannot do it anymore. We already have taken its own nature. So in the first year, in the moment you decide not to prune, the tree will make a lot of shoots. In each this branch will make a lot of shoots towards the sky. This will be the first year's movement of the tree, like this. And then the middle of the tree will be densely covered with the vegetation. And each of these shoots will act as if it is a new tree, because tree instinctively wants to go back to its own nature, but it cannot do it anymore. And then if we decide still not to prune, within a few years, we will not be having any harvest, and most probably tree will suffer, and then within a couple of years, it will die. It will not survive. So a prune tree has to be pruned continuously. You cannot stop pruning. You can reduce the action of pruning, maybe prune less, 1 year less, 1 year a bit more, but stopping totally will not happen. You have to keep on pruning. And there is a very big consequence as well, because we human, we have one symmetric line, which is this. This line divides the humans in two equal pieces. And the same symmetric line for the trees is the soil level, like this. So if you see a tree that has this shape, that one main trunk is raising towards the sky, that means that there is a taproot that is going down directly in the soil, breaking the soil and looking for the underground water and the minerals. But in the moment we change the form of the tree above the soil, which we give this shape, so we give the same shape to the roots. The roots take these shapes. Instead of having one taproot directly going down, now the tree has this form of its roots. What we see above the soil, it is the same under the soil. It is like a symmetric line, the soil level. So as the roots of the tree stays in this form, very superficial, and this is the part where the soil gets dry in the summer months, quicker than the deeper points of the soil. That means that we need to continuously water. These trees will require more water because we eliminate the taproot that was supposed to go down under the soil, underground, and look for the water. Since we eliminate it, since we change the shape of the roots, that they stay like this superficially, we have to water those trees. And another consequence of pruning trees, the movement of the lymph. As we have a blood in our body that circulates in our body and distributes the elements, oxygen and carbon dioxide. And the same action is done for the trees with the lymph. It's simply gathering all the nutrients from the roots, and then it is raising to the top of the tree, and as it falls, it starts distributing the nutrients. This is the natural movement of the lymph of any tree. Not as it is going up, but as it is going down, it starts distributing the nutrients. So in the natural movement, the lymph had to arrive here to the top of the tree, and then as it goes, it starts distributing the nutrients. This is how it's supposed to be. And this is the reason the fruits that are higher, they are always sweeter than the lower fruits, because they get the first nutrients. But in the moment that we don't have anymore this main trunk that is raising, but we have this kind of this form that is called polyconic form, lymph, let's see what is happening. It arrives here to this point as it is raising, and then it has to arrive as it is nature to the highest point of the tree, but it doesn't exist. And to eliminate this situation, farmers normally, as they prune trees, they leave a little vegetation here. That is called in Italian language tira linfa. Tirare means to pull, linfa means lymph. So pull, lymph puller, we can translate like this in English language maybe. And they leave this vegetation that is called tira linfa in order to orientate the lymph, so that the lymph can arrive here, the highest point of the tree, and then continue to distributing the nutrients. But let's have a look what is happening. In this moment, lymph comes here and then goes up because there is the highest point of the tree, and then distributes the nutrients, and then goes down, and then it has to go up again, and then down, and then up again. And this form can be 3 or even 4 branches like this. So lymph has to go up 3 or 4 times more, up and down. It has to make this movement in order to distribute once the nutrients. As it is on nature, it had to go up only once, and then by falling, it had to distribute the nutrients. But in this case, it has to continuously go up and down 3 or 4 times more. You can think that a heart of a human being has to beat 3 or 4 times more in order to circulate our blood in our body. So what will happen in the long run? We will not have a healthy life, and we will not even have a long life. And during our living time, we will suffer from many diseases. And this is the same for the trees. Plus, in each year, when we prune these branches, these shoots that tree is continuously making, we are taking this energy from its vital energy. and then the movement of the leaf continuously up and down. A tree in wild nature that is not pruned by humans can easily reach over 100 and 150 years. But in the farms, nowadays, a tree cannot survive more than 20 to 25 years. Because we are consuming the energy, the vital energy of the tree in a very concentrated period. As we continuously prune, and then the leaf has to make continuously this movement up and down.
There was a question from Mareike who asked if you remove a dead branch, does it count as pruning as well?
No, this is like a cutting hair. That branch is like cutting hair, that is totally fine. So this is the main reason why we can find still the apple trees, cherry trees, pear trees that are living in the nature and passing easily 100 and 150 years, but in the farms they will not live, they will not survive more than 20 to 25 years. This is another consequences of the pruning trees. And there is one more reason that farmers prune trees, because many fruit trees, they have a tendency of producing 1 year more and 1 year less. Maybe this is a knowledge that we have it for olive trees, but actually it is valid for many fruit trees. This is their nature. They produce 1 year more and 1 year less. Not yes and no, but more and less. But in the moment we prune trees, the tree thinks that it is dying. And as an instinctive reaction, it wants to continue its own generation. And next year, it produces a lot of seeds in order to survive. And a lot of seeds means a lot of fruits. So next year, they produce again. And next year, again. The other year, again, without any break, let's say. But a tree that lives continuously under stress of death by pruning, and who eats those fruits that are coming from dead trees, what happens? We take the same energy to our body, that a living being is living under a condition of the death stress and producing its fruits, and we are taking this energy to our body. And actually, we are not very different from the trees. If you look at the world, where there is suffering, human beings are making more children. Where there is well-being, human beings are making less children. It is very similar actually with trees, or like survival instinct, let's say like this. And we have arrived to the point, I don't know, have you ever been in any country in South Europe? We get to the point that we prune olive trees in such a way that there are main branches like this thick, maybe. And then there is only a little vegetation like this green part. So the heavier that you prune, the more that the tree will produce next year, of course, within the limits.
Someone is asking that if you don't prune a tree and they live for 100 years, will they one day retire and like produce less?
That will happen like us. We be born, we get the most productive part in our life, and then as we get older, the production also, let's say, will be in the retirement period.
And someone is asking as well, how can you recognize if a tree is grown from seed or not? She has a very old cherry tree. Does it mean that it has grown from seed because it's an old tree, or how is it there some way that you can recognize it?
it is very difficult to, like, if it is grafted, a tree that is grafted on a rootstock that is grown from seeds or another kind of rootstocks that we will be talking now, this we cannot recognize it. This is not possible to recognize if it is grafted. If it is not grafted, if you see just main trunk is raising, even in that case, it is not possible to recognize. So there is not really a way to understand if it is grown from seeds or not. It's not be possible after many years. Okay. So this is mainly the parts about pruning, and we will return back. Now let's talk about the reproduction of the trees. How we can reproduce trees and what are the consequences of these reproductions. So first of all, any plant that exists in this world, any plant that makes seeds, they can be produced by seeds. It is not they can be produced actually. This is their most natural way of reproduction. Like two human beings are making a child. There is nothing more natural than a tree that grows from a seed. This is the way that nature grows its own trees. And if you grow a tree from seed, we have just one certain information, just one thing that we can be sure about it, that will be 100% a new variety that has never been present in this world before. Like a new child that is born into this world. We are sure that this child has never been present in this world before in that time. This is the only certain information that we can have. You can look at the parents and then make comments about it, like two people, blonde, blue eyes and tall people. We can comment that most probably the child from these parents will be blonde, tall, and blue eyes, probably. But about the character of this child or many other personal information, we cannot have it. Nature decides. And it is the same for the trees. If we have a green apple tree that is pollinated with another green apple tree, we can comment that most probably this new apple tree that grows from this seed will be a green apple. But we can never have the information about how big it will be, how croquant it will be, how watery, juicy it will be. All these informations, we cannot have it. It is a decision that is made by the nature.
I see there is a question still about the pruning. What about the air pruning technique, sowing in an air pruning bed? I don't know if you understand the question. Air pruning, I'm not familiar with it, but maybe you are.
No, I also don't know what.
No, so maybe that person can or just unmute itself and ask the or explain the question. I see it was Tim.
Yes, it's a technique where they sow mostly nuts in a bed made by wood, but at the bottom, like after 1/2 meter or so, there's a roaster, so it touches the air, and they do it in order to make more side roots, to get the rootstock go sideways. What do you think about this technique?
Okay,
what do you think it would do to the tree?
Okay, this is I think it is called air layering. And it is not a way of pruning, but it is a way of reproducing new rootstocks. so that you can multiply the roots of this tree and then you can have more roots. Okay, they call it air pruning too. I didn't know this way of calling. I was calling it air layering. So thank you for the information. And you can produce in many ways the trees that we will be talking now. One can be from cuttings, one can be from air layering, and another is called micro propagation. But in any of those ways that we multiply trees, the taproot will not be present. The taproot exists only if a tree grows from a seed. In any other way, there is no chance that a tree will develop a taproot. This will not happen. So it is like as if you are already starting with a prune tree. Let's call it like this. That doesn't have the taproot.
Maybe before we go into the various forms of multiplying the plant, there is another question. What do we do with the prune trees? Is there a solution to help grow the main branch back, or do we have to say goodbye to the tree and plant a new one?
In the meantime, there is no way back. We have to accept that we have arrived to this point and we have to keep on pruning. You can reduce the pruning, maybe not very heavy pruning, but we can prune lightly the trees, but stopping 100% will not be possible. So I guess the wisest thing would be to plant new trees from seeds. And then as they grow, when they start production, we can maybe say then goodbye to the prune trees.
And how likely is it when you buy a tree that it has already been pruned?
If you go any random garden store without asking, and most probably you will receive a tree that is already pruned, or they will prune in the moment that you buy the tree, because they think that they are doing a favor to you as they prune the tree. So it will be most probably pruned.
And maybe a different kind of question, but I will drop it now. Do you self-pollinate as a reproduction selection?
No, I don't pollinate trees. It's done by nature.
Yeah. Okay, I think that were the questions up until now.
Thank you, Catherine. So there is an information, maybe a wrong information that stayed in human knowledge area. Let's say that many people believe in that if you grow trees from seeds, they will not produce fruits, or they will not produce fruits that are edible. This information is not true. First of all, if a tree that comes from seeds, if it wouldn't produce fruit at some point, it wouldn't be able to arrive to the year of 2022 that we are living in. At some point in the world's history, as it doesn't produce anymore the fruits, that means that it also doesn't produce seeds anymore, and it would be eliminated from the world. So they have to produce seeds. That means they have to produce their fruits. And there is also another belief that is, most of people believe that, or many people believe that a tree grown from seeds will not have edible fruits. I believe that this belief stays with an idea of when we start having the commercial production. At some point, the trees that are grown from seeds, maybe they wouldn't satisfy the requirement of the market by their size or by their color, by their non-perfect shape, let's call it like this. And then it stayed in our mind, or it took a place in our farming area, that the trees grown from seeds, they will not have an edible fruit. Maybe it is more correct to say they will not have a fruit eligible for the market. This would be more acceptable, I think, to say. But again, this information, we cannot know it. Any fruit that we are eating today, at some point, they started from seeds. And then for some reason, we, humanity, liked it and we decided to keep them because they have a long shelf life, they have a big size, they have good color for marketing, and we have decided to keep them. But any fruits or even the antique varieties of the fruits, like simply at some point in the world's history, they are grown by seeds, from seed, and we, humanity, decided to keep them. And even if you have an intention of economically sustainable farm, just grow some fruit trees from seeds, maybe even 30–40% of them, just let them be as nature decides. Let them be freely grown and take a shape as they like.
Someone is suggesting that if you do that, you will need plenty of place to grow fruit trees because you will never be sure of the results of your fruit.
Like one person, two people is having a child. You can never be sure that how it will be this child. This is true. Like, I agree with it. But if you have a faith in your heart that it will be definitely a beautiful child, I believe that it is the same fate for the fruit trees. It is a decision that is made by the nature. And it will be beautiful for sure. Just try, just grow from seeds. And even if you like, we can talk now about grafting. You can still graft the trees, but at least some percentage of it, 30 to 40% of your trees, just let them be as they like, as the nature decides.
Mm-hmm. Someone is asking if fruit trees from seed start producing later. That's something he heard. Is that so, or does it depend on the fruit?
This is actually the same reason. In the moment we buy a tree from a nursery, and in the moment we prune them, the tree enters the stress that it is thinking that it dies. So it goes immediately to fructification because it wants to continue its own generation. So a tree that is pruned or grafted, which creates more or less the same effect for the tree, it will start producing fruits maybe 1, maximum 2 years earlier than a tree that comes from seed. That is possible, but it is like it is like we humans, when we are 11, 12 years old, we have the physical maturity to have a child, but we are not mature yet emotionally to have a child. So first of all, the tree should develop its own roots and then grow, arrive to a certain maturity by itself, and then we can talk about reproduction. And if you take the same tree, and in one way you keep this tree by pruning, in the other hand, you keep the same tree by not pruning. Just imagine. And the tree that is pruned will start production 1 or maximum 2 years earlier than the other one that is not pruned. And it will produce maybe 20 to 25 years continuously, every year in a certain amount. That is true. But on the other hand, the tree that is not pruned, it will start production 1 or 2 years later than the pruned one, but it will live over 100 to 150 years. It will produce 1 year more and 1 year less. But if you look in the end of these both trees, the one that is not pruned, it will produce way more in the end of its life. Plus, We don't need to go there and prune each year. We don't need to continuously water. And we don't need to take even care of them. As they grow, as they reach to maturity, we can simply let them survive alone. We don't even have to interact with them anymore. Like we human beings, when we are born, we need parents that accompany us to a certain level of maturity. And as we reach to that maturity, then we can survive alone. It is the same information, same thing is valid for the fruit trees. As they born, first years we need to take care of them, to accompany them to a certain maturity. And after that point, we can just leave them alone. They will survive and they will not even need any human interaction anymore. So if there is any question till here, please ask. Then...
Yes, there are some questions. What if the tree died, a pruned tree, and it starts growing from its root? Do they keep the new root? Can it be interesting or not?
This depends on how the rootstock was, how it is made of. If we have this information, then we can decide. If it is a rootstock that was coming from seed, maybe we can decide to let it grow. But if it was a rootstock that was produced from cutting or air layering or micropropagation, then in that case, I wouldn't leave it to go to a new tree, me personally, but it is a choice of each one, I guess.
And if you have seeds from a pruned tree, you plant it and you let it grow, you don't prune it, can it become a natural tree, or is it important that the mother or father tree was never pruned?
It is better that it is never pruned, but even if you take a seed from a pruned tree, that doesn't mean that the child of this tree will be pruned. It will still get its own natural form, but it will still carry the effect of pruning. It is very important not to gather the seeds, or at least if we have the chance of choosing, it is important not to use the seeds from supermarket fruits, let's say like this. Like nowadays, if you buy a peach from supermarket, as you open it like this, also the seed breaks. It is already broken actually. You just open it and it breaks it and it opens in two. That means that the seed is not fertile anymore. That means that during the growth of this tree, there was an excess of chemicals have been used. The tree is not fertile anymore. And it is the same also for us human beings. Because of the excess chemicals, humanity is also losing the fertility, and also the trees are losing their fertility. So if you have a possibility to reach a seed, at least not chemically grown trees, that is important. If you have a friend that is cultivating, just gather those seeds, or we can take a walk in the nature and find wild trees, wild fruit trees. You can gather the seed of those trees and then germinate them.
It was one of the things that the people after the weekend in October were very convinced about. Let's gather those seeds, and because someone asked where to find the seeds, you answered the question now. And what they did was they all wandered around in their neighborhoods. They all asked friends and family, and they are now exchanging the seeds. The apple tree, there is a website being built about the seeds, but the thing that shocked me, that it was not so easy to find those seeds. So you have to do an effort to find the seeds, or in another way that we are used to, let's say.
Unfortunately, this is true. It is not easy, but fortunately, it is still possible. And if we don't act today, probably our children will not have access to natural seeds. That means that they will not have the possibility of even growing trees in a natural way. So we are living a very critical moments, and either we act now or it will be too late for our children.
There was one question as well about what you said in the beginning, the effect of pruning trees, that it has an effect on the shape of the roots. And he asks if you have any evidence of that.
There are drawings of Fukuoka, and there are also, I believe, that some informations you can find it easily. And one confirmation to it, for example, I can say just now that will be valid, I believe. Like when you like to water a tree, or a farmer, when they like to water a tree, the water normally they irrigate in the shade of the branches. So if these are the branches, let's say they finish in these points, so they give the water in the shade of the branches, in this circle where the branches are reaching, because the tree is symmetric to the ground. This could be one confirmation, but I believe if one is looking, they will also find more information about it. And even in Fukuoka's book, there are some more information about this. They can also have a look.
There's a practical question about conflicting branches. If you have branches getting rubbed into each other, that you know the tree is going to suffer, how do you act? Do you prune? Do you not prune? Do you let it grow?
This will not happen if a tree grows from seed and grows naturally alone. There will not be this situation. If this happens, that means that there is something that is not natural. It can be that this tree is grafted, or it can be that it was pruned, or it can be any other effect that happened. And if you see that it is going, that one branch is really, let's say, creating damage on the other, you can eliminate one of it. That is possible, because we are already in the process that is not naturally developing, so we can interact in that moment.
And maybe a last question that is in the chat now, and then we can continue about the various forms of multiplying. There are more questions. I have to scroll. He says a healthy tree can only grow out of a healthy soil. I think that's one of the main topics of the weekend. You have to take care of the soil. Is there evidence that a tree grown from seeds is less attacked by insects and fungi than a tree multiplied in any other way? And then maybe it could be a good way of starting to talk about the other ways.
I believe the proof is in front of us, which is a forest. Most of trees are growing from seeds, and although there is a big, they are not attacked by the disease as it is in the fruit orchard. But if they are interested more, I believe they can also find more information about it. But the only proof is in front of us, and it is the forest. Okay, so let's proceed a little bit about the reproduction of the fruit trees. And nowadays, there are several ways of producing fruit trees. One is called from cuttings. It is simply, we take a branch from a tree, any branch, you can cut it. Or let's say the garden stores, they cut a branch of a tree, and then this cut branch will be put in a liquid that is prepared on the other hand, that is a root growth hormone. And then it starts making its own roots. And then at some point they plant in the soil or in the pot. This is one way of growing trees that is called from cuttings. And In this way, the tree will not develop the taproot. This is a very good way of reproducing the bushes, and any kind of, let's say, lavender or rosemary, ribes, currants, any kind of bushes that already don't have the taproot, that can be applied for those plants perfectly. But for the fruit trees, it is better not to reproduce them by cuttings. And the second way of growing fruit trees, reproducing fruit trees, it is called air layering, what Tim said before. It is simply, this is a branch that is already attached to the tree, and we take off the bark 360 degrees. We just pull off the bark and then put a little bit of soil around, just cover everything like this with 360 degrees, and then cover it with a material. So this branch that is filled, let's call it like this part, and covered with soil, at some point it will start to make roots inside. And after a season, they go and they cut this branch and then they plant it. And there is no risk of losing them because they are making their roots. And while they are making their roots, they are attached to the mother plant. So for sure they will survive and they will develop their roots. But still, in this case, the taproot will not be there. It is again a good way of reproducing for bushes or other plants, but not fruit trees. And another way of reproducing fruit trees, nowadays it is getting very popular and taking a very big part in the market. It is called micropropagation. It means that they are having a little piece of a root of any plant that it is enough even one small cell. They take a piece and in the laboratories, they have an artificially produced root growing hormones. And then they put this piece of a root in this hormone. They don't even touch to the soil and they grow in the hormone. So in the end, we have a rootstock, something like this, that doesn't look like any rootstock actually. It is just a big ball, let's call it like this. And then they are sold in the market. It is very easy for them, for the market, and it is very fast. And it is taking a very big place nowadays in the garden stores. Most of the rootstocks are coming from micropropagation, that are roots never even touch to the soil, unfortunately. And again, there is no taproot. It doesn't exist also in this way. And those rootstocks, nowadays also it is getting in the fruit grown market. Let's say they are grown in 2 dimensions, these fruit trees. And even a small child can go there and hold an apple tree that is grafted on a micro propagation produced roots. They can hold it and they can uproot it easily because they are not holding. They don't have even any parts of holding or feeding itself. So these trees has to be continuously watered and fertilized. Otherwise, they cannot survive and they cannot produce because the rootstocks are not real rootstocks. And even if you have an interest of having a certain type of varieties because of a reason, because you like it, or there is a request from market, you can still grow your fruit trees from seeds, and then you can graft them with the variety that you like. Fukuoka was also grafting some of his trees, and also other students of Fukuoka, they were grafting some of their fruit trees. It is not wrong, but again, we will have some consequences. We will also talk about grafting now. Before starting with that, I would like to talk shortly about a very efficient way of growing trees from seed that is called stratification. It is simply, we have a pot, and then we need to have a sand, a river sand. They are sold in the garden stores around €2 for 25 kilograms of bag. It shouldn't be a sandy soil, but it should be only sand. And we have this pot with the holes in bottom, and then we put one layer of sand, and then leave 10 seeds. Let's call it like this. Let's say 10 seeds, and then we fill up with sand. We cover all the seeds that we put with sand, and then again 10 seeds, and then again sand, seeds, sand, seeds, sand, seeds. So in the end, in such a pot, in such a surface, we can have over 100 fruit tree seeds or any kind of tree seeds prepared, and this mixture has to prepare within November, let's say it like this, in this period, and then it has to stay outside. It has to get the cold, it has to get the rain, it has to get the snow if it snows, and in the springtime we go there, we take our pot, and then observe the first seeds in the highest from the highest part. If you find them, they are making the roots. That means that most of them already started to make their roots. We put it down, we drop it, everything. We throw it, and we will find the seeds that are making their roots, but not making the vegetation. This is a characteristic of a sand. It allows seeds to make their roots, but it doesn't allow, or it doesn't have enough substances to start the vegetation. So in that moment, in the spring time, we can gather all the seeds that are already making their roots. We can have them. We can go around in our farm, make a hole like this in the soil, and then drop the seed, and then cover it with some organic material. This is a very efficient way of growing trees from seeds. And in any other way, it can be that you can simply take the seeds and bury around the farm, or we can prepare seed balls with the seeds and then drop them in the farm. You can leave 3-4 seed balls that are made with seeds, and then put a bamboo stick to orientate them. Or another way, it can be that we can grow them in the pots. But in that moment, we have to be very careful, because the taproot shouldn't touch to the bottom of the pot. Because if the taproot touches to the bottom of the pot, it will start making this movement. It will start turning, rotating. And after that point, it will not go down anymore. It will make always this movement. And in order to understand this, we can consider more or less in the first 2-3 years of a tree growing, we can say that if we see a 10 centimeter of growth above the soil, there will be around 20 centimeter of growth under the soil, more or less. So it is 1 above the soil, 2 under the soil. It will be like this in the first 2-3 years, and afterwards it will find its own balance. It will be 1-to-1. But in the first years, the tree grows the root, and then it will start growing the upper part. So if we see the 10 centimeter of vegetation above the pot, that means that there is a 20 centimeter of root growing in the pot towards down. And if our pot that we started to grow seeds is around 20 centimeter deep, let's say, as quick as possible, we have to transplant. Or even though if it is not the season of transplanting, we have to transplant them because the taproot shouldn't touch to the bottom of the pot and then make this movement. Once it starts rotating, if you take it and then transplant it, they will never grow as they would grow. They will grow a little bit, but they will never develop the taproot towards the down and then become a real tree. This will not happen. This is very important. If you grow trees from seed in the pot, the taproot shouldn't touch to the bottom of the pot.
If I'm allowed, I try to, it's Tim, sorry, and the technique I was referring to, I was trying this and I tried to stratify a few hundred walnuts and all of them started rooting like a week ago. So my idea was to put them in a box, like in a pot, but at the end, there's no plastic, there's just a raster, but when the root touches there, it touches the air. And then the idea would be that it would send shoots to the sideways. And after you plant it, that maybe this would be healthier than in a pot where it goes around. What do you think about this?
First of all, the roots of the tree, it shouldn't get in contact with the light or even the air. So if you use a pot, if you like to use a pot, it is important that you choose a deep so that the taproot can easily go down. And then as quick as possible that it reaches to a certain growth, it is better to transplant. Now they will enter a dormant situation. They will lose, I believe in Belgium nowadays, they are already losing all their leaves. So they will not grow anymore the roots. They will be in the dormant state. So you can keep them in the position that they are, in the pots that they are. But within the springtime, before the spring arrives, it is better to put them, position them in the soil.
Maybe some other questions. Thank you, Tim, for explaining your question. Where you live in Shizen farm in Italy, the trees that you planted there, are they all grown from seeds?
Not all that are grown by me, but they are all grown by seeds. I buy some of them from a nursery that I go there and I talk them, I ask them how they grow their trees. And if they grow the trees from seeds, then I buy, otherwise I don't buy. And in order to understand and have the confirmation about this, first of all, if you decide to go and buy a tree, we have to buy the bare root trees, never in the pots. So bare root trees, they are available in the market in the winter months, let's say after 15, 20 November till 15 to 20 February. And that is the period that they will be available in the market. And they will be in the dormant state, laying down, like standing in the sand, one next to each other. So in the moment you would like to buy, you can just take one and look at the rootstock. And if you don't see the taproot that is going down, it is very clear to see it is simply directly going down. If you don't see the taproot, that means that that tree is not grown by seed. It can be grown by cutting, air layering, or micropropagation, I don't know. But if you don't see the taproot, that means that the rootstock didn't grow from seed. And those trees that are not sold during the winter months, the bare root trees, As the spring comes, they will start vegetating. The garden store, they take them out from the sand. They cut the taproot if it exists, and they prune the tree, and then they position them in the pots. And they wait the customers to buy them within the next seasons. And those are the trees that are sold in the pots. They will be sold they will be sold 2 to 3 times more expensive than the bare root trees. Plus, most probably they will be pruned, and taproots, if it exists, is already eliminated. Never buy a tree in the pot that is already fruiting, because that means that this tree is in the pot at least 4 or 5 years of its life, at least. That means that even if taproot exists, even so, that means that it already has touched to the bottom of the pot and it is already making this movement. Probably the taproot already doesn't exist, but even so, that is making this movement. When you position it in your farm, they will never develop their roots and they will never become real trees how they would become. But in the time, I would like to talk quickly about grafting. This is wrong. Grafting trees. Fukuoka was grafting some of his trees, and other students of Fukuoka also were grafting their trees. And because there is a request from market, and farmers would like to know exactly what they are producing, because this request comes from the merchant, that is actually coming from us who goes to market and buys the fruits. Grafting is not wrong, but in the moment that we graft, we have to accept that there are some conditions, there are some consequences. Just to make an example, there is a tree that is called Ponchirus trifolata, that is like an antique citrus variety, that is one of the oldest variety of the citrus family, that is not even considered actually part of a citrus family, but it is a citrus plant. And this plant is resistant to the -20, -25, even -30 degree it can hold, and it can grow even in climate like Belgium. It will produce small lemons like this, very bitter. You can just mix the juice of these small lemons with water and it becomes almost lemon juice. And if we take this tree and then graft with another type of plant, like another variety of lemon, this new plant that is grafted on a Ponchirus trifolata rootstock, that will be resistant only, let's say, -8 to -10 degrees. So in this case, this tree lost its own resistance to the cold. It can be that another tree will lose its own resistance to the disease. It can be that another one will lose resistance to the drought. We don't know it. We cannot know it. Only information that we can have that it will lose a certain resistance to a certain happenings. Let's call it like this. And if you accept it, you can prune trees. So you can graft your trees.
Marijke asks if the Pontus trifolata is called wild lemon in Belgium. Do you know if it's the same plant?
I don't think so. I don't think they would call it even lemon actually, but maybe it is called like this in your language. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So it's best to use the Latin name to be sure. And someone is asking if you can repeat the name of the tree.
Ponchirus trifolata, it is called.
And Tim is saying yes to the question that do we call it wild lemon, and he has put information about a website that has more information in Dutch about it. Somebody's asking if you have any good books on natural farming. If people after this evening want to know more, read more, what book or books do you recommend people reading?
Fukuoka's book, and then the best book will be the nature itself, to touch the soil and learn directly from the nature. And then soon, I would like to leave the words to Linda, if she accepts in this moment. There will be not like a small manual, let's say, about natural farming, will be published soon in Belgium. But I believe if one likes to start immediately today, the best and the only book that will be important to read is Fukuoka's book, and then touch the soil as soon as possible. And then we will learn in the best way. Reading a lot of book will create only a confusion in the mind. So one has to touch by its own hands.
I think that's a nice way to end. Maybe this information you are sharing with us, we're all very, very thankful about you sharing your knowledge, your experience. I know it's just 1 hour and a half. It's way too short. There are some questions remaining unanswered, but I would like to maybe, Linda, give you the word about the book that was referred to, because it was something we wanted to share with you anyway. I'm going to share my screen, but Linda, you can.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, after Kutluhan's coming here, well, the first time I heard him, it was in spring, and I wrote down what I thought it was interesting. And then he came here to Belgium, Katrien, and you continued writing down as much as you could. But there were also geluidsopnames, how do you say that? We also recorded the whole weekend. And we talked a lot about many people about natural farming. And we will organize a lot more workshops here in Flanders and in the Netherlands. But we thought it was also very useful to have just the typed out version, let's say, of the workshop, like a little manual, as Kutluhan says, all these things he's sharing during the whole workshop. So we are working on it now, and many people are typing and layouting and editing, and it's all volunteers' work. So now, as you see on the screen, we are looking for some money to be able to print the book on chemical-free paper and with natural inks. And I don't know yet how much money it will cost, since I don't know yet how many books we will print. But we thought we already start crowdfunding, and when we're really a little bit further in this project, we will, of course, make an announcement about the pre-buying possibility to pre-buy the book. But yes, we thought it was a nice idea to offer this webinar freely. And if you feel like donating something, then know that your donation will be used for the book that we are working on. And maybe a little, yes, the book will be in English for now. That's first, but also people volunteered to translate. So I think it won't be long before it will be in Flemish. Well, it won't be long. I don't know. I'm always in a hurry, but let's see. Let's see. First the English one, and that's the plan. We have people who are translating. So yes, probably it will be here in Flemish too. Who knows, it will be translated to Italian or other languages. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. And maybe one word on the seats, if that's okay. So we've been looking around. So 60 people have participated to the weekend 6 weeks ago. And me personally, I never heard about these M roots. There were a lot of people in the workshop who are planting trees, starting food forests, who are buying trees. They didn't know either, or some of them didn't know that they were buying trees with these M roots. So we started to call around like crazy. And we found out that actually the Boomgaarden Stichting, so many places we called, all the fruit trees are on M roots. So we actually didn't find any place up to now where people in Flanders are growing fruit trees from seedlings. Just a few kind of fruit trees at Ecoflora in Hasselt, and that's it. So we are running around. You've seen Katrien posted the call, the oproep. That call is for you too. We are still looking for seeds.
Linda, just interfering. They didn't see the call yet. I posted it only directly to you, but it could be interesting to share it. Yes, and I was wondering if I can share the website as well. Some people asked about the website that Veerle created. We can share it in the chat, I suppose.
No, wait, Katrien, you cannot publish the oproep in the chat to everyone now. I don't know how to do it.
I will copy it. But it was too long to post it in one chat, so it was various chats. But the link to the website, we can share it as well.
No, you cannot. I'll just explain. So we've been running around with 60 people, or maybe not everybody was running, but we've been asking our neighbors, our grandparents, looking everywhere for these old fruit trees who are in good health and who have not been touched by chemicals. We found some, but it was like late in the season. So we made a lot of apple compote to get the seeds from the pears and the apples, but we don't have that many seeds because we started looking at the end of October. So everybody who gathered sent all the seeds to one person, one participant. She made a little website with the seeds we have, but it's almost empty already because it's a very small seed bank. That's all we gathered, and these people are making now the certification. So that's why not to share, because it's almost empty. All the seeds are going to the participants. They're almost gone. But we are willing to receive some seeds if you still have. So that is in the chat. You can send it to Helianthus at my name. That is the herboristerie where I'm doing volunteering. And then we will do the certification, and in spring, let's hope we have some seedlings, and then we will share. If we have enough to share with everybody, we will. For the moment, we share with the 60 people who are motivating, let's say, who are trying to start up their natural farming where they are. So since there are more workshops coming, more and more participants, we get to more and more seeds. That's what I hope. And then the seed bank will get filled, and we will have enough to share with a lot of more people. Was that clear?
Yes, thank you, Linda. The slide you are seeing right now is all of that is the work of Linda, and she is networking so much with other people wanting to organize a new natural farming weekend with Kutluhan. Kutluhan is coming to Belgium a lot in the coming months to give everyone the opportunity who is interested in knowing more to follow the weekend, to participate. And the easiest, if you are interested at the moment, is to put yourself on the waiting list on our weekend, Avanza, and whenever we open up a new weekend in another region, you will be informed. So that's the easiest way, or you can just wait until you get some information. You can see here, April will open up soon. That will be the first weekends, but we are planning more and more, and we're planning just up until that the weekends will be full and that people won't be interested anymore. But in the meantime, the waiting lists are getting fuller and fuller, so we know that we will have to organize some more weekends. And Kutluhan is prepared of traveling to Belgium in April, in May, in July, and he's traveling back and forth to take care of his own farm and his own project there, and everywhere else in the world. Kutluhan, I would want to thank you very, very much for your time, and I will really give the last word to you this evening. You can end this Friday evening with everybody.
Well, I would like to say thank you. Thanks to Linda, that she is like a volcano. It is spreading around all these natural farming movements. And thank you to all the participants that have time and participated today. Just one last word, maybe. In order to walk in the path of natural farming, one has to have a faith in the heart that nature is perfect alone. If one doesn't have this faith, we will not be able to walk in the way of natural farming. This is all what I want to say. Thank you again, Katrin.
Thanks to all of you. Nice to read all of the words. If you want to share anything, please put it in the chat. And I wish you a very pleasant evening. And hope to see you sometime on a weekend or online or whenever you want. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.